Tonight, on Open Mic Night of the Living Dead, it's our encore episode for The Descent.
The creature's creeping right behind you. I hope you finally find a little slice of peace and light. 'Cause it comes crashing down tonight. Welcome to the open mic. When we call your name, you'll die. But there's no need to dread. This is the open mic night of the living dead.
I like how you said tonight. It's very presumptive. I usually say this week.
This week. I know. Well, I think because it's the open mic night. So even if they're listening to it.
Oh, true. Okay.
Open mic night. That's why I went with that.
I'll give you that. You have some discussions planned for our encore today?
Just a couple movies just to kind of discuss a little bit, talk about.
Well, before we get into that, next week we'll be doing a deep dive on Friday the 13th.
Yes.
The OG. But that means we have an open spot in our Wheel of Horror. So I'm going to fill that in, even though after Friday the 13th and the encore episode, we'll be digging into a couple of Christmas horror movies.
I can't believe we're there already, but there it is.
Time flies when you're having a podcast.
That's what they say.
And I'm not sure yet. Hopefully by the encore episode for Friday the 13th, we'll have figured out how we're going to approach picking those Christmas movies.
Yeah, that's tricky. There's so many good ones.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But for now, I'm going to fill in the wheel so we don't get to the new year and I'm confused as to why there's an empty spot on the wheel. So
okay,
we're going to fill that, but it's going to be a while before we spin the Wheel of Horror.
The anticipation.
Joining our films is Final Destination.
Yay! I'm trying not to scream into the microphone. I'm so excited. Oh, yes. I can't wait to talk about that movie.
So when we resume our use of the Wheel of Horror, it has Alien, The Shining, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho, Child's Play, Intruder, Carrie, Slumber Party, Candyman, 30 Days of Night, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Strangers, Final Destination, and of course, we also might be diverted to the sequel, the Wheel of Sequels.
Yeah, those are all fantastic. You did say Slumber Party, but you meant Slumber Party Massacre.
Yes, I did.
I knew that, but just in case anybody else was listening and was like, Slumber Party? I've never heard of that. Why is that with all these other amazing movies?
Wouldn't it be funny if it just meant instead of a movie, we just had a slumber party? That's one choice.
I mean, when you've been married for a decade...
Life's a slumber party?
Yeah, like, don't we... I mean, we have slumber parties all the time, kind of. But maybe we could stay up. I could do your nails.
Again. Of course, if you stick around to the end of the episode, you're going to get a demo of a song inspired by The Descent. You'll just have to wait and see what that fate brings. But what do you have in store for us today?
Well, one of the many themes that we talked about when we talked about The Descent was the journey through grief and how after the loss of her child, we follow the main character and her friends all kind of down into the depths of grief. And so I was thinking about other movies that do this. And so I've come up with a list of movies that we have seen. And then I also had just a few that I looked up that I haven't seen. I don't know if you've seen, but I thought we could kind of talk about them. We want to try to stay as spoiler free as possible. But I will say the name of the movie before we start talking about it so you can like pause if you really don't want spoilers. Yeah? Does that seem like a good approach?
Or hit the 15-second forward button.
Yeah, hit that little curvy arrow, forward arrow. So one thing that I was thinking about, because we saw one of these very recently, but we'll talk about them, and we watched the other one this year, are the movies by the Philippou brothers, Talk to Me and Bring Her Back. Talk to Me was in 2022, and Bring Her Back just this year in 2025, and we just finished that recently. These movies, first of all, Talk to Me about grieving, about a teenager grieving. That movie I rated really highly when the first time we watched it, and then the second time we watched it with our own teenager. It was such a cool concept. It was really creepy. They build the tension so well. And I would say that in Bring Her Back, their newest movie, same kind of deal. They are experts at vibes. Would you say?
Yes, but I would say the vibes we're always talking about vibes, and a lot of times we're talking about how fun a horror movie is.
Oh, these are not fun.
I would not say that they're fun. They're a great watch, but they're not ones you're going to sit down with your group of friends and be tossing popcorn in the air at each other, that sort of thing.
I think some people do watch Talk to Me at least that way.
Yes, Talk to Me certainly has more... It leans more to the fun side some of its horror.
You could watch that just for the horror and not if you're someone that just watches the horror and gets mad at movies that go deeper or that spend too much time going deeper. And actually, a lot of the complaints I think I've seen about Talk to Me in reviews have to do with the fact that it wasn't that scary. I thought it was terrifying. And I really enjoyed how it surprised me. It subverted my expectations. Plus, really great acting. Looks really cool. I really like just their look, their vibe, the vibe. That one, I remember when we watched it the second time, I was crawling up the side of my chair. I was like, I hate this. I hate this. Why are we watching this again? And then by the end, I was like, oh, right. Oh, this is so good. So not a comfortable movie. And Bring Her Back was kind of the same for me.
Yeah, it's like they're experts in discomfort.
Yeah, but like beautiful discomfort. And so, talking about movies that explore grief, beautiful discomfort, there is something beautiful about grief. There is something beautiful because it gets us, it's horrible and painful, but there's also something beautiful about that exploration because it necessarily makes you reflect on the time that you had with the person that you've lost. And maybe that reflection isn't always good reflection. And even the good ones are painful, but it's such a human process. It's such a universal process. There's not a person who makes it out of this without feeling grief in some way or another. And I think the Philippou brothers, I don't know anything about them or why they write about families and grief so well.
But maybe when we get to one of those movies eventually, we'll be able to dive deeper into that.
I would love to, yeah. So that was a really good one, but difficult as a parent, although I think all of these are difficult, more difficult. And maybe that's also the thing when you watch a movie like this, if you haven't experienced grief, I wonder if it hits differently, if it doesn't feel quite as, if the horror doesn't hit you quite as hard because maybe you can't imagine that yet. I don't know.
Yeah, because then at that point, you're relying more on the actual gore and those sorts of things, which is also fantastically done.
Both
and
of these
still
movies,
worth watching.
Yeah, both of these movies, very, very intense, physically gore. Yeah, for sure. But I both of them, I scored quite high. So those were two movies that I thought do a really good job of exploring this with some serious teeth, so to speak. So.
And if you've seen Talk to Me, which I think more people have at this point, and you have not yet seen Bring Her Back, a month or two ago, it started streaming on Max. I don't know if it still is at this moment, but if you have Max, check it out there or rent it or whatever. It is definitely worth watching. Even though I would say it's in the same like vibe zone as Talk to Me, it is a completely different movie. And for me, at least after my first watch, I actually felt like they outdid themselves from Talk to Me to Bring Her Back. I thought Bring Her Back was an even stronger film.
I think it's a more mature movie.
Yes.
I think it is. It feels more mature. It's more mature story. I think both of them are mature, but I think Talk to Me feels younger and it explores grief from a younger perspective. Although this movie also does have characters of varying ages, but yeah, I think you're right. I think they outdid themselves. I think there's a slight edge for me personally for Bring Her Back, but they're both just great movies. So those are my first two. I didn't ask you if you had any that you wanted to talk about.
I'll think about it as we go, but I
might hit them all. Yeah.
I left this Encore up to your guidance this week.
Great. There's no fun games or anything. Just talking about movies.
See what you get, guys.
You get really fun talking about movies about death. Next up is another pair of movies from director Ari Aster. We're looking at Hereditary 2018 and Midsommar 2019, which I know you are not surprised that these movies ended up on my list of movies about grief.
Of course. And Hereditary I've seen at least twice, if not 3 times, so it sticks in my mind a little bit better. Midsommar I've seen the once. I mean, I certainly remember the feeling I had watching it. I'd love to rewatch it at some point just so I can experience it again because it's been a while and I don't really, I remember the overall here to what for about it, but I definitely have Hereditary fresher in my mind.
I think I've seen both of them only once and I remember Midsommar more. I think because we watched, I don't think we watched either one of them since we started this horror journey, right? So like it's not part of that because I think we watched them pretty close to when they came out.
Yeah, because we really only started keeping track of our horror movie views in like 2022.
Fall of 2022. It was October of 22, 3 years ago.
So even though I've been watching horror movies
forever
since I was a tyke, not at this rate by any means, but I certainly wasn't keeping track until about 3 years ago. So anything we watched before then is sort of undocumented.
Yes, it is. And so again, trying to stay as spoiler light as possible, but still give you an idea of how this movie relates to the topic. Hereditary, pretty notorious at this point for the way that it deals with grief. Toni Collette, her performance in that movie, I did not look it up, but it should have won awards and didn't, like many horror movies, right? Or did she actually win an award? It was brilliant. But again, better to go in not knowing anything if you somehow don't know about this movie yet. But it is widely regarded, and especially I was looking at a few different places, bunch of different lists about movies about grief, about processing grief, and Hereditary was listed almost more than any other movie. I would say both of these movies are similar in vibe in terms of the intensity and the discomfort. Also a beautifully uncomfortable movies, would you say?
Yes, although my recollection is, Midsommar obviously is taking place during a festival, so that's much more of, there's a lot more, at least from my memory, which I could be wrong about, but a lot more daytime, sunshine elements, which you don't always get in horror movies, especially horror movies about grief. They tend to be like Bring Her Back was a lot of gray and rainy and very little sunlight.
So is Talk to Me.
And Bring Her Back, plenty of it takes place during the day, but there's not.
And Midsommar, you're right. In my mind, Midsommar is bright and sunny, but also very disturbing, whereas Hereditary is darker, lots of indoors, lots of angles in my mind when I think of that movie. All of these movies, by the way, pretty intense. Like, don't watch these movies if you're not in a good place. Maybe that should be the title of the episode. Movies not to watch.
You mean like Ted Danson Good Place?
If you're in a dark place, watch The Good Place. Yes.
What we haven't seen by Ari Aster yet is Beau is Afraid.
Okay.
Which is tough for us because it's 3 hours.
Oh my.
But I guess one night we could split it up over a couple of nights, do a couple 90-minute watches, although I might get to it before you, but even I have a hard time squeezing in a 3-hour movie.
That's tough.
That's why I haven't seen Oppenheimer more than twice. But yeah, that one's supposed to be pretty good as well. I don't think it rates as high as Hereditary or Midsommar. And then I think he just had another movie come out this year. Yeah, Eddington, which I've heard mixed things about. Again, usually when I hear mixed things, it means to me a lot of people went in with certain expectations that weren't met, which tends to happen. Although it's on IMDb, it's rated slightly higher than Beau is Afraid, but again, not to the levels of Hereditary and Midsommar. And I don't know anything about Eddington. I try to avoid spoilers myself. I even avoid trailers in a lot of cases. But I do know Beau is Afraid deals with grief issues as well. So.
Oh, that's that. Then I will add that to my list. I mean, I think we would end up watching that regardless. A few more movies that we've seen. I think we've watched both of these this year. The next up is The Babadook, 2014. Jennifer Kent. Stop every time. Every time. Every time. That movie scares the crap out of me. All of these movies make me feel so weird, but that is what we're. And The Descent, same thing. I didn't want to watch it. I kind of like dread watching it because of how it's going to make me feel, and yet I consistently rank these movies quite highly because it makes me feel something, even if it's something uncomfortable. So Babadook is 2014, so it's been out for a while. It's about a mother and a difficult child and
a children's book.
And a children's book. I think watching that, I think I've seen it maybe 2 or 3 times since. I mean, I was a mother when it came out, so I've seen it maybe 2 or 3 times. But it's certainly the longer I parent,
Glenn Danzig,
the more meaningful that movie is. But also very hard to watch and creepy and scary. It's some jumpy scares for me. But John can just make that noise anytime he wants to freak me out, and does.
Another very gray movie from my recollection.
Yeah, dark angles in my mind is what comes to mind. Yeah. So far, only Midsommar is kind of bright, has a different palette.
Yeah. Well, I think gray is probably par for the course for grief-related movies.
Yeah. Interesting. And then the last one we just watched quite recently, actually, but The Ritual. And you brought that up during, I think, the last episode. The Ritual 2017, a group of men going for a hike in the woods.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up in the Descent episode.
Yes.
Was because...
Similar outline, similar setup, maybe. Group of friends following a loss. Yeah, following a tragedy, and kind of the exploration of the friendship, but with horror stuff.
Yeah, friendship tested by extreme, unexpected, unforeseeable circumstances.
Yeah, I really liked that one, and I really... Well, again, I don't want to say too much because knowing too much about these things, which does make it a challenge to talk about them. But The Ritual, that was 20... Hold on, I wrote that down.
It's a hike in the woods.
Hike in the woods.
You can imagine that.
You can imagine that. 2017, it's a British movie, right? British actors.
I don't remember. Where were they hiking? Sweden?
They were hiking like on the border between Sweden and Norway, so...
Swedeway.
Don't do that.
Swedeway 500. It's like a race.
Well, so think, Nordic skylines and mountains and the like. Very beautiful, but also very dark because they're hiking in the woods. So that one's a little more traditionally horror, though. It does kind of build up the tension, don't you think? I think it's closer to The Descent in terms of its horror, whereas maybe some of these other ones don't follow quite the same. They're also more about relationship. I don't know.
I still think The Ritual is, for the majority of the film, is less horror than The Descent. Like, I think The Descent is still the most horror out of all of these, would you say?
Yeah, which is probably why it's the one that was, on our wheel to begin with. It's a core.
I mean, they're all horror.
They're all horror. But no, I think I know what you mean. I think it's probably the one that's been seen by the most people. It's not elevated horror. Which is not a term we've talked a lot about, which is a term that we could talk about. But I think, Hereditary and Midsommar are often cited as elevated horror, right?
Yeah, and I don't feel like I hear that term as much anymore.
A few years ago, it was pretty big.
I don't know if it's because we see less elevated horror these days, or if it's just that term sort of fallen out of fashion. But what does that really mean? It means a horror movie that's focused on more real life circumstances.
It's, the sarcastic, I guess, definition of it is it's horror for people who aren't willing to say that they like horror, but they want to call it elevated horror. But it explores larger themes, right? That it's a little more
dramatic, more drama,
more filmy. Yeah, like less popcorn movie-ish.
Is Get Out elevated horror?
Yes.
But I don't know about Us or Nope. And speaking of the Jordan Peele directed horror movies.
I don't know if Nope is not, it's horror. It is horror, but it doesn't feel like horror the same way Get Out does.
Yeah, and Get Out takes a while to get to the horror.
Yeah.
Which is also sort of an element of
elevated horror.
More dramatics, although Get Out's wicked funny too, bub.
It is. What about gore? Because something like Midsommar and Hereditary both have very graphic moments, incredibly graphic, but the gore, unlike The Descent, in which we've just got literal buckets and pools and oceans of blood, it's realistic gore.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a lot of time leading up to the gore, but once you get there, it is almost harder to watch because it's more realistic in its context.
It feels, and it feels real and possible to have happen.
Right.
Like,
it's not that I'm saying that the effects are any better than some of these other movies, like some great slasher movies, Tom Savini stuff. You've got great effects. I'm not saying that necessarily the effects are better or worse or are more real. It's the context of the gore that is more realistic that sometimes makes it tougher to stomach.
And I would also say, although Midsommar opens with an incredibly horrific scene that I don't know if you would, that's just a warning. Again, do not watch these movies if you're feeling low. And often there is a lot of just an overall warning for self-harm and depression and things like that.
If you're feeling low, watch Bride of Chucky.
Bride of Chucky. That's a perfect. So we should definitely do an alternative horror films that explore joy through horror. We could do that.
We could do like a countdown of like our top 5 fun horror.
Yeah. Yes. That could be really fun. You might need to listen to that after you listen to this episode.
Before you go to your next thing, I think just to put a cap on the gore part of it, we were talking about how expert these films are in crafting discomfort. And that discomfort is more about the situation usually in these movies that we've discussed, right? So like the discomfort is not created by the gore or violence. It's really the situation that creates sort of the discomfort. And then they hit you in the face with some crazy realistic violence or gore, and you've already gotten to such a point of discomfort.
Agreed. And actually, I'm thinking about Smile and Smile 2 here too, also. Smile and Smile 2 also do this, right? Where it takes a long time. The gore, and the anticipation, because you know something crazy is going to happen and then it does, and it's horrific or really graphic in a way that shocks you more than some of our classic horror movies, like The Thing bursting out of someone's stomach. Like very different.
Yeah, no, the Smile movies also are grief-related movies, but they do lean a little bit more toward horror, I would say, than the other movies we've discussed today.
Certainly make you feel uncomfortable. Ugh. I think if you watched a marathon of all of the movies on this list, you would be very sad. I don't know if I could handle even 2 of these movies at a time.
I do think of the Smile movies as a bit more fun.
They are a little bit more fun, but oh man, they scare the crap out of me. That's it for movies that we've seen. A few more that I'm just going to throw out there. I don't know much about these, and I purposefully didn't look too much at them, but Lake Mungo from 2008 keeps coming up.
I saw it, but a while ago, and I would need to I didn't like it as much as I expected based on what I heard, but keep going.
Anything for Jackson 2020?
No, never even heard of it.
I know, I hadn't either. The Night House 2020, David Bruckner.
It keeps ending up on my list and I keep missing it due to
streaming
and just not catching it at the right time.
And then this is out there, but Don't Look Now from 1973 with Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. It looked really interesting. Something about there's kids involved. There's like a child or a creepy child or a dead child or something. I don't know, a child. So I wanted to mention that for us and maybe our viewers, listeners. You can't see us. Who might be interested in the same kind of thing that we're interested in. But yeah, that's it. Those are movies about grief and that are also many of them very, very good.
Excellent. Well, let's play him a song.
Let's do it.
Here's this week's demo from The Descent.
When you're deeper than you think, you've diverted from your purpose. You're gonna have to thrive down here before you find the surface. You've lost all of your light, and you've never been this nervous. You're gonna have to thrive down here before you find the surface. You're gonna have to thrive, but you don't know if you can turn this all around and around. What you found is that you're hopeless without a sound. You're gonna give your final notice with nowhere left to climb but up. I hope you find you're strong enough. Nothing else will get as tough when you're at the lowest. When you've got nothing left to give and they call the final curtain, you're gonna have to thrive down here before you find the surface. 'Cause you've run all out of hope and the end is nearly certain. You're gonna have to thrive down here before you find the surface. You're gonna have to thrive, but you don't know if you can turn this all around and round. What you found is that you're hopeless without a sound. You're gonna give your final notice with nowhere left to climb but up. I hope you find you're strong enough. Nothing else will get as tough when you're at the lowest. Now you think you see the light. No, you're not out of time. You've just gotta climb, climb, climb. You might not get a sign. You gotta dig inside. If you're gonna thrive, 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 until you know that you can turn this all around and round. What you found is that you're hopeless without a sound. You're gonna give your final notice with nowhere left to climb but up. I hope you find you're strong enough, 'cause nothing else will get as tough when you're at the lowest. You gave yourself a gift, and the struggle, it was worth it. Look at you, you made it through, and now you're at the surface. Look at you, you made it through, now you're at the surface.
All right, we got to wrap this up. I'm sure we probably forgot plenty of excellent horror movies that deal with grief. If you can think of any that we missed, please share them with us in the comments or anywhere on our socials. Where would those be?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram, Threads, X, Blue Sky, TikTok, and YouTube.
YouTube.
All under OMNLD. Hold on, did I do it right? OMNLD Pod is where you can find us.
And we hope to see you there. And next week, we'll be diving in to Friday the 13th. Thanks, everybody. See you then.
See ya.